Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the absolute only YouTube show bold enough, audacious enough, and crazy enough to share what's on my mind each and every week, 2 times a week. This is it. You'll find it no place else. Welcome back to the Have I Told You About This show? I am your host, Brad Komjenik. But as you know, I turn into Buff Daddy whenever I cover Survivor each week. This week, my mind was totally taken aback by episode 4 of season 50 of Survivor. As you know, this is the season that is more known to be in the hands of the fans. But right up front, let me thank each and every one of you who continue to watch, like, subscribe, comment to this little experiment. It was clear by the numbers that you were wanting more shows, but shorter shows, more focused. So I, of course, listened to you and delivered. Your feedback will always be heard here and abided by. So, with that out of the way, join your buff daddy as we head back to the beach and dive right into episode 4 of Survivor, season 50, A Knife to the Heart. So, welcome back, Survivor superfans. This is the milestone season in the hands of the fans, as I told you. And if you thought the first 3 episodes were packed with drama, blindsides, and iconic moments, episode 4 just raised the bar. We got celebrity cameos, a reward challenge for the ages, shifting alliances once again, and the biggest blindside of the season so far. So, whether you're a day one fan, you're just tuning in for the chaos that you've heard others have been enjoying here on Have I Told You About This coverage of Survivor, buckle up, friends. We're breaking down every twist, every confessional, and every strategic masterstroke from tonight's episode. Here's how I break it down. First, a detailed chronological recap of the episode, scene by scene, minute by minute. Then we're going to dig into the strategy. Who's playing the best game? Who's dominating socially? Who's floundering? And who's kind of faded into the background? Who have we not seen a lot of this season so far? And finally, we'll wrap up with the front runner predictions that I have, even some Vegas odds, and a look at where the game stands heading into next week's episode 5. So let's dig into it. In tonight's episode, we open up with day 8 at Fiji and the Vatu tribe returning to camp after Q got blindsided. The mood's tense, but I would say determined. Stephanie is actually reeling from losing her closest ally, Q. And she's not shy about letting her tribe know that she feels isolated because of that. In a confessional, she admits, I can't trust anyone here at all, not after that vote. Angelina, the target of the previous vote, hugs it out with Stephanie. But the edit lingers on Angelina's face. She's not going to forget that vote anytime soon. Meanwhile, the other tribes, Sela, Kahlo, are settling into their new post-swap dynamic. Now, over at Sela, we got a much-needed dose of levity with the Survivor 50 talent show. Survivor 50 talent show again. These are becoming a kind of a thing with this tribe. Hopefully, this tribe won't be together too much longer anyway. We'll talk about why a little bit longer. So, Rizzo decide, or sorry, Rick decides to do a juggling act that falls right on his face. Rizzo does a Mickey Mouse impression. I thought I did a good Mickey. Rizzo's was, I'm going to say, a little bit better. And it stole the show. Jonathan and Charlie decide to stage a fake wrestling match, as you can see there with Charlie on Jonathan's back, and that had the tribe in stitches. But beneath the surface, Charlie's distrust of Rizzo is simmering, and the edit makes sure that we don't miss it. Charlie won't let up on it. On Kahlo, the rivalry between Aubrey and Genevieve is heating up. Aubrey, ever the idol hunter, disappears into the jungle. And that prompted Genevieve to to shadow her absolute every move. And you can see her looking for the idol. You know, you'd figure she would find it as long as as long as the edit let her go looking for it. But she reminded us, hey, I already have an idol, so if I don't find one, I'm okay. But Genevieve is not going to have much of her looking around on that island by herself. So she comes in and intrudes. In a twist, though, and this is why, friends, when people tell you that Genevieve is one to watch, this is why. Genevieve goes out and decides, hey, look what I just found, another idol. She finds yet her second Billie Eilish boomerang idol. And finally, this time, finally, she listened to me. You know, these people are watching the show, right? Finally, they listened to me and she made a great decision. She's not going to tell anybody she found this. Amazing, amazing gameplay. You zip the lip when you find the treasure, the booty, the good stuff. Don't tell anybody what you've done. This time she keeps it a secret and she plans to use it as a weapon against Rizzo down the line. So she sends it over to him. Okay, now let's begin to talk a little bit and get past all this about the challenge. Because this is where the episode I felt really, truly shined. Now, Survivor to me has always been about pushing players to their limits. But tonight, the stakes are doubled. It's not only an immunity challenge, it's a reward challenge. And friends, the reward, a once in a lifetime afternoon with country music superstar and Survivor super fan, Zach Brown, at the sanctuary. Yep, you heard that right. Zach Brown himself is on this island. There he is. He's not just there to sing. He said he's going to catch and cook the fish for the winning tribe. Now, that's what you can appreciate about a true Survivor fan, right? This is not just lip service from Zach Brown. He wants to go to Fiji, not just for a vacation, not just to show up, not just to promote a new album. He's going to go out and go spearfishing, something that he has watched every episode, he says, and people have done, and it's something he always wanted to do. He's going to go out and do it, and hopefully catch fish and bring it back for the people. Now, this challenge has been dubbed Arch Nemesis, and it's brutal. It's a multi-stage gauntlet. Charlie, upon coming on the beach, immediately calls it by name. Oh, there's Arch Nemesis, and it's my Arch Nemesis. Now, tribes dive into the ocean first, and they retrieve buckets. Okay. So two people, one person, or more than two, I think there was a couple of them where there were two people who were helping somebody, holding somebody up, and they can get somebody up on this really thin piece of wood, and then that person has to untie uh, a bucket, and then another person has you got to get two buckets down. Okay. Once you get your bucket, you have to then make your way out to a submerged boat. You have to load that. You have to the boat is submerged with sandbags, so you have to unload all the sandbags, the boat will then you can lift it up a little bit more, and then you use the buckets to bail out the boat. Okay. Then you load that boat with puzzle pieces. Then you have to push it up the beach, but not just up the beach. You have to push it through a net. The final stage is a massive arch puzzle, and it spells out the word celebration. The first two tribes to finish win immunity, of course, but the first tribe that wins the Zach Brown reward. And here's Jeff hawking his new board games, one old board game and one new one. All right, so we're just gonna really quickly trudge through the reward. Here they go, diving in. And there you see the plank with the people who have already made it up there. And you've got to get those two buckets and get them off. Um, Here we see Chrissy trying to get her bucket. I think that's Stephanie trying to get hers. There's the man Jeff. Everybody's got their buckets. Now they're through the water. There's the boat. The boat's submerged. Jonathan could probably just pick that whole thing up by himself and bring it to the island, but he's going to play by the rules and lift the thing up so that they can bail it or get the sandbags out. Of course, Vatu's the last tribe to get their buckets. Of course, they're starting off late. And there we see Jonathan just lift. With the bucket, the boat was full and it had all the sandbags, and everybody else was trying to lift. And he just said, "Let me just turn it over," and he did. He turned it over, and then they were able to get their boat and push it up. We see Ozzy here. Sela just kind of jumped out to an early lead thanks to Jonathan's raw strength, but Kahlo surged ahead on the puzzle itself. Vatu was still reeling from losing Q. Voting out Q, not smart for them for challenge purposes at all. And Vatu was just dead in the water, literally. Folks, they never even got their boat through the net to the finish line. In the end, Kahlo clinched first place and the coveted Zach Brown reward. With Sela, and it looked like they were going to win because they had more of the puzzle done early, they scraped by in second. And of course, Vatu headed back to Tribal Council again. Now, this challenge is classic Survivor. It's absolutely grueling. It's mentally taxing. And for Vatu, it was demoralizing. The editors here lingered on Vatu's exhaustion as they trudged back to camp after it was over. And it foreshadows the chaos to come. This was multiple losses in a row for them. And you have Ozzy on this tribe. There's the man. He doesn't lose challenges, and he's lost multiple in a row. He's feeling down about it. But we also notice that Dee is almost in tears here after losing, and you'd think she would be happy because they got immunity, but she's not. So everybody heads back off. Vatu still doesn't have their flint. And they look, "I can't even carry this bag," says Yubiki. And the problem is they never even got their boat through the net. That's how weak this tribe is. You can see it in their faces. Okay, Zach Brown at the sanctuary. Let's take a moment to appreciate the reward segment. Okay, this is nothing unlike anything we've ever saw. This is Survivor 50's production team went all out. Kahlo arrived at the sanctuary to find a handwritten note from Zach Brown. It said, "Make yourself at home. I'll be back soon with lunch." The tribe was giddy. There was beer, there was wine, there were snacks, and the promise of a private concert. There we see Joe talking about how this is unprecedented in the game of Survivor. And then we see Zach Brown, and you think, oh, they were just kind of kidding. They'll come back and he'll have fish. We won't really see it. No, he's on the back of the boat. You'll notice that says Zach Brown on his spear gun. this was not something that was just made for the show. He's sitting on the back of that boat with a spear, and he dives into the water. And these shots are just beautiful. Such vintage classic Survivor these shots are. It's just amazing. And they always seem to get the best angles. I mean, look at that classic sun ray shot as he dives down. And he tells us the story um, about you are literally battling the sharks for these fish, right? There he is again telling the story, and he dives down. And this is a snorkel, folks. He does not have an air tank. You can see that clearly. He's snorkeling, and he's way down there. So this is something he's done before. And there we see those sharks, and he immediately nails some massive tuna and another fish. And then he cooks up a gourmet meal for the tribe. He talked about the parallels between spearfishing and Survivor. And those parallels were patience, precision, and timing. And the edit gives him more confessional time than some actual contestants have had all season long. It was crazy. So they ate and ate and ate and ate. And I mean, looky there, Zach has got kebabs. He's got the tuna. He's got all. I think there was even steak, and yeah, there you can see some steak, some kebabs, some tuna. He's made some salsa for them. This was just something that, I mean, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. It'd be enough just to have the food, but to have Zach Brown there, crazy, absolutely crazy. And they talk game for a little bit, and then he says, "All right, it's time for me to go serenade you." So Zach serenades the tribe with an acoustic version of Colder Weather, and then he did debut a new song called I Ain't Worried About It, which I liked. I liked a lot. I've liked Zach Brown for a while, Chicken Fried. Who doesn't like Chicken Fried? Love that song. And then Free, man, that song makes you feel free. So the mood around camp here is clearly celebratory. Pardon me. And the most cynical fans online that I've seen so far this morning admit this segment worked. It was clear that Zach was a genuine fan, and his presence feels like a love letter to Survivor's legacy. Coach gets so caught up in the music that he cries. And then, as the philosopher that he is sums it up, we got to live in the moment. Life is too short. For a brief moment for these tribe and their members, the game faded away to the background, and the players were just people sharing a meal and a song in paradise. And, who couldn't blame them? Who wouldn't want to do that, right? Who wouldn't want to kick it up and listen to a Zach Brown concert? It's crazy. Colby appreciated it. I know they all did. They all had words. So back at Sela, Dee is visibly upset about missing out on the reward. I told you earlier she was crying. And, Jonathan said he was a big Zach Brown fan as well. But it really reminded her of the fact that second place is still a loss. And she tells her tribe that. The edit cuts between the joy at the sanctuary and the disappointment at Sela, um, highlighting just how much these bonding moments can impact tribe morale and future alliances. Now, meanwhile, back at Vatu, the mood is anything but celebratory. The decision to vote off Q has left the tribe physically weaker and strategically fractured. Ozzy and Emily are wary of the David versus Goliath trio, Mike, Hibiki, and Angelina, who have publicly vowed not to vote against each other. See, Ozzy wants to target Angelina, seeing her as the glue holding the tribe together. Emily, ever the pragmatist, is open to the plan, but she wants to maintain her goodwill with Ozzy. Before we go on, whose hand's in that bag? What's that? Oh, it's Rizzo getting his idol. There he is. Huh. Wonder if he's going to try to do the same thing with this one that he did with the other one. Show it to everybody, gloat about it, tell everybody he's going to use it week after week, and then not use it. But right now, just like the last 3 seasons of this show, you've only had one tribe losing every challenge. This is so predictable, folks. If you've watched this like I've watched it, for the past 3 seasons, one tribe loses everything and the others just kind of float along. And it's kind of boring. And they have to make up, you know, drama to make the show even remotely interesting for those 2 tribes. And those people don't get a lot of airtime, as we'll talk about a little bit later. And then you get pushed into things like they're doing next week. 2 tribes will be up for elimination. Well, guess what? If you would do a much, much better job in separating out the tribes, you would end up not in this situation where one tribe always has one strong person, everybody else weak. And they vote off that strong person, and now they're just going to lose over and over and over and over again. They've got to do a better job of that going forward. Good for Rizzo, though. Let's see what he's going to do. So, we talked a little bit. Emily, ever the protagonist, is open to the plan, but she wanted to maintain her goodwill with Ozmeister. Mike White, however, is not about to let his closest ally go. Mike decides to pitch a counterplan. He wants to vote out Emily instead, arguing she's a bigger strategic threat. He tries to sell the plan to Stephanie, who's desperate for a new foothold after losing Q, and she seems to be fine with it. But when Mike brings the plan to Christian, things start to unravel. So Mike's going around talking to everybody and to Angelina, and yeah, everybody's on. But here's Christian. And so Mike brings that plan to Christian. Christian's like, wait a minute, Emily's somebody I need to protect. In a confessional, Christian admits he's never felt more conflicted on a vote in his life. See, Mike tries to manipulate Christian by comparing Emily to Gabby Pazuzzi, Christian's closest ally, turned betrayer from the season of David versus Goliath. And instead of convincing Christian, the comparison sets off alarm bells for him. Christian, there we see Gabby, and he's remembering that season. She betrayed him, and it really took him to tears. But he realizes, with those alarm bells going off, just how dangerous Mike's powers of persuasion can be. So Christian, once again here, proving why he should be considered a favorite for Final 3 this season, hatches a plan. He figures out they could do a 3-2-1 vote to blindside Mike. He pulls in Stephanie and, of course, Emily, leaving Ozzy out of the loop because Ozzy's dead set on voting for Angelina. So Christian goes about his business and he gets Emily, and so they talk, and Emily's like, well, I have to be for this, I guess, but we should tell Ozzy. And Christian says, no, we're not going to tell Ozzy. We're not going to do that because Ozzy wants her a different way. Ozzy will be mad, but we can talk to him post-tribal and be okay. Ozzy comes back. He heads back to the tribe. And immediately, what does that text on the screen say? Emily opens her big mouth immediately and says, Mike is turning the vote on me. Ozzy's like, what? Christian gets up and runs behind Ozzy and starts doing the no, 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 don't, no. And he's not saying it, but he's miming it. No, zip it. Don't tell him anymore. Right? Look at him. Stop. Zip it, zippity doo dah. Don't, no, stop. Emily, you're about to blow it up again. Right? And that's when he says, this is the second time she's done that. She did it to me, and now she's done it here. But if Christian can get this plan to work, it would be the biggest move of the season so far. Wonder if he can get it to work. Now, Emily's last name is Flippin, and that describes her to me perfectly, as in her mind, because she's constantly flipping on who to vote out. Oh, this person, this person, this person, this person. And this time, once again, she turns out to be the swing vote. The edit makes sure we feel her anxiety. She wants to protect her own safety, of course, who doesn't in this game, but without alienating Ozzy, who she feels like her closest friend. In a moment that had fans screaming at the TV, as I mentioned, Emily nearly blows up the plan by telling Ozzy about Mike's move against her. But Christian stopped her. He was watching from the sidelines and was exasperated, and that nonverbal communication is instantly meme worthy, of course. But Emily stopped short of revealing the full plan, and the alliance holds for Christian. At this point, trust is at an all time low. Stephanie is still reeling from Q's blindside, and Ozzy feels left out. Angelina is just blissfully unaware that her name was on the chopping block just hours earlier. The stage is set once again for a tribal council that will go down in Survivor history. And I have to say, this is the fourth episode this season, and for all four, they have edited this in such a way that so many people's names were mentioned, you have no clue who's getting voted out. You can't go for sure, oh, yeah, for sure, it's this person or this person. It's just not, it's been edited masterfully for season 50. All right. Now, at Tribal Council, we're going to have the blind side heard round the world. Tribal Council is a masterclass in survivor tension. Jeff Probst opens with a question about trust. But of course, the players dance all around the real issues as they've been wanting to do. This is not a really great talking group of people outside of Christian. Christian can speak, but the rest of them are lacking, to say the least. Christian actually reminds everyone that trust only matters in this game if you survive the vote. Stephanie talks about the difficulty of trusting your gut when you're bombarded with conflicting information. And then Mike takes the stage. Ozzy comes in, of course, first and says, oh, yeah, I caught fish. I'm the man. I provide. You can trust me. I'm still playing the same game I've always played. And he's not lying. And Christian's like, yeah, that's true. But once again, remember, you have to survive the vote, right? Trust is great, but it's nothing if you get voted out. As I mentioned, Mike takes over here and begins to say, I am the mastermind. And he compared Survivor, unfortunately for him, to his own job as a con artist, selling dreams to people for resources. And what he's talking about here is television shows to people who finance them, right? That's what he does. You've heard he's been on White Lotus, and he's even gotten some people from Survivor roles on there. Angelina just kind of sits quietly, sensing that something's off, but unsure where the target might be lying right now. And then Emily, in a confessional, said, the vibes are off for me. And then you can see Christian go, oh no, what is she doing? What is she doing? Hope she doesn't blow it up again. But that's our Emily flipping her mind, flipping her mouth, and we never know what's going to go. So we get down, and it's time to vote. I love some of these expressions. So the very first vote was for Angelina. It's a nail biter. No idols or advantages are played. Ozzy has his idol, remember? He's got a Billie Eilish idol. He doesn't play it. I mean, why? His name was never even mentioned. So Mike votes for Emily. Emily votes for Mike. Ozzy votes for Angelina. And the deciding votes then, Christian and Stephanie, go to Mike. The blind side is complete. Mike White, the self-proclaimed Machiavellian puppet master, is sent packing. In the biggest shock of the season so far in A Blind Side. His parting words were, "You skunks. Amazing. Good job, you guys." But Ozzy is furious. Ozzy snaps. He actually mutters, "F that," F being a four-letter word. And he starts to storm out. Christian catches up to him and says, "Hey, I'll catch you up later." And Ozzy says, "Too late." Wow. The fallout from Tribal is going to be immediate. Ozzy feels betrayed. Emily is relieved but shaken. And Christian cements his reputation as the pre-merge strategist to beat. The preview for episode 5 teases a double elimination, and it hints at new alliances forming as the game enters its next phase. Charlie opens up Operation Bad Blood against Rizzo. That's teased. And the Billie Eilish boomerang idols continue to wreak havoc across the tribes. Now, as always, as I do, Buff Daddy loves to do this, is let's dig into the strategy. Who's playing the best strategic game right now? The answer, without a doubt, to me is Christian Hubicki. Christian has managed to position himself at the center of every major decision of his tribe. He's built strong relationships with Emily and Stephanie, and he maintains a working alliance with Angelina. Crucially, though, he saw through Mike White's manipulation before it was too late. His ability to orchestrate a 3-2-1 blindside while keeping Ozzy out of the loop demonstrates a level of strategic foresight few players so far have come close to matching this season. Christian's confessional after the vote is telling. "I've never felt more conflicted on a vote, but sometimes you have to strike before you become the next target." He's aware of his threat level, and he's playing a careful, calculated game. The show editors are giving him a lot of screen time, and the fan reaction online has been overwhelmingly positive for Christian. If Christian can survive the next few votes, he's a contender to win the whole thing. Now, I'm going to give Mike White credit for his strategic acumen. He orchestrated Q's blindside in episode 3, and he nearly pulled off another big move tonight, but his downfall was underestimating Christian's ability to see through his manipulation. By comparing Emily to Gabby, Mike made one step over the line too far, and it reminded Christian of the dangers of trusting a master storyteller in the end. Mike's own narrative skills became his undoing. All right, who's playing the best social game? Who's winning friends and influencing people, as the books say? In this new era of Survivor, social game is more important than ever. So who's dominating socially? Well, so far the answer might surprise you, particularly how hard I've been on her. Emily. Despite her reputation as a blunt, direct player who does flip, she's managed to build genuine connections with multiple players across tribal lines. She's maintained her alliance with Ozzy, built trust with Christian and Stephanie, and even managed to keep Angelina on her side, at least for now. Emily's confessional in tonight's episode reveals her self-awareness. "I'm not here to be soft, but I've learned you have to be flexible. You can't see the world in black and white." Her willingness to adapt, coupled with her ability to read the room, makes her a social threat. The fact that both Mike and Christian saw her as a pivotal vote speaks volumes and backs up what I'm saying here about her influence in the social game. Now, Angelina is another player quietly building a stronger social game. It doesn't look like it if you're just watching her spots here and there. But if you watch it all in totality, she survived 2 consecutive votes where her name was on the chopping block. And she's managed to maintain her relationships with both the David and Goliath trio, -1 now, and swing votes. The editors are giving her a subtle, under the radar presence, which could pay dividends as the merge approaches. All right, it's Buff Daddy Blast time. Who's playing the worst game? And also, who's kind of a non factor up to this point? Let's talk about this first. Who's playing the worst game overall? Right now, Ozzy. And it's been Ozzy. It's just Ozzy. Despite his physical prowess, he's losing every challenge, right? And it's not just him, it's his team, of course. Ozzy has been left out of 2 major votes in a row now. He's emotionally reactive about everything, as seen in his post tribal meltdown, and he's struggling to adapt to this new era's emphasis on social and strategic gameplay. You cannot win this game just winning challenges, and he's not even doing that. So he's got a zero-sum game. If he can't find a way to integrate into this new alliance, he's going to be the next to go. Okay? Now, as for non-factors, people just aren't factoring into the game. Well, remember, you've got 2 whole tribes who've never been to tribal council yet. They're just having fun. They're just out there doing the challenges because they know Vatu's gonna lose. You don't even have to give it your all at this point. So there's several players that have kind of faded into the background for me. And again, this is because this season, as also in the last 3 seasons, saw that single tribes seemingly losing all the early challenges in a row, which ensures the other 2 tribes just float along. Now, surprisingly to me, Joe and Camilla have received only minimal screen time and have yet to make any significant impact in the game. The editors are focusing on the big personalities and strategic players, and they're leaving these contestants as question marks heading into the merge. If they don't make a move soon, they risk being remembered as footnotes in season 50's storied history. Now let's have some fun. So, who am I considering to be the front runners at this early point in the game? Well, according to the latest Vegas betting odds, which I looked up prior to filming, you will never guess who Vegas has as the front runner right now. Just take a guess right now. Just hit up in the comments right now before you go any further who you think right now is the front runner. And I'll wait just a second. Pause and come back to right here. And in 3, 2, 1, it's Aubrey. Aubrey remains the favorite to win season 50 by a massive margin in Vegas right now, and has since episode 2. However, the editors are giving a lot of momentum now to Christian Hubicki, particularly after this evening. And Emily and Charlie's getting a lot of screen time as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on them. Christian's strategic dominance, Emily's social flexibility, and just an ability that even though she keeps making mistakes and blowing up the game, she's still in a power position. And Charlie's ability to avoid the spotlight are making them players to watch as the game progresses. Aubrey's Vegas odds reflect her reputation as a master strategist, but she'll need to begin to better control her emotions and be sure to begin playing a much better social game, and as well be sure to use that idol wisely if she's going to live up to those Vegas expectations, in my opinion. But if I had to pick one of those 3 that I mentioned right now As the front runner, obviously, it'd be Christian. Christian's gameplay and his cool headed way of handling pressure is making him a fan favorite, and he's a likely target as the merge approaches for other people. Emily's adaptability and social connections give her a real shot if she can avoid being seen as too much of a threat. So, friends, Survivor superfans, where does Survivor 50 stand after tonight's explosive episode ends? Well, the game's wide open, isn't it? The David versus Goliath alliance has been shattered a little. The swing votes are more powerful than ever. And the editors are setting up multiple players as potential winners, as I've pointed out to you. These Billie Eilish boomerang idols are still out there, and they're going to add chaos. And the preview for next week promises a double elimination and even more blindsides. And friends, we wouldn't have to do a double elimination if we didn't always have one weak-ass tribe. We need to stop that. We can stop that. And, oh, you're saying, but there was a merge and people did buffs and all that. You do it from the start. Remember, from the start, they picked which tribes would be which, right? And it's just been downhill from there. We can do better. Trust me. If you're a fan of classic Survivor strategy, as well as social maneuvering and unpredictable gameplay, this season has delivered in spades. Hibiki is playing the best strategic game. Emily is dominating socially. Ozzy's in deep, deep trouble. And several players are still waiting for their breakout moments, which you know are coming. As for the front runner, as I mentioned, could be anybody's game, but my money's on Christian. So, friends, that's it for Buff Daddy's breakdown of Survivor 50, Episode 4. Thanks for joining me as I outwit, outplayed, and outpodcasted all the other Survivor reviewers that don't know what's on my mind. And I do this week. Please, friends, don't forget, please subscribe, leave a review, join the conversation in the comments below. Who do you think is playing the best game? Who's your pick to win it all? Let me know in the comments below. Until next week, remember, trust is a luxury. And the only certainty in Survivor is uncertainty. Drop your buffs. I'll see you next week. Good night, castaways.